The warning siren screamed across the science vault. Red lights flashed in every corridor of the massive orbital station. Dropped his coffee and ran toward the observation deck with dozens of other scientists. Through the reinforced glass windows, he saw something that made his blood freeze. Ships, hundreds of them. They filled the darkness of space like a swarm of metal insects. Each vessel was larger than anything humanity had ever built. Their hulls were dark purple, and strange symbols glowed along their surfaces. The fleet had appeared from nowhere, jumping into Earth's solar system without any warning. Pressed his hand against the cold glass. He was a scientist, an astrophysicist who had spent 10 years studying the stars. He had always believed that humanity would one day meet other life forms, but not like this, not with warships blocking out the sun. "They are not firing," said Park Sora, his colleague and closest friend. She stood beside him, her tablet clutched to her chest. Her voice was calm, but her hands were shaking. "They could destroy us in seconds, but they are just waiting." The communication systems crackled to life. A voice spoke in perfect Korean, then switched to English, then to a dozen other languages. The message was simple. "We request an audience. Send your leader to receive our Empress heir. We come in peace, but peace is not guaranteed." The commander of the science vault made a decision that would change human history. He agreed to meet them. 1 hour later, a single shuttle detached from the largest alien ship. It flew toward the science vault slowly, almost gracefully. Watched it dock at the main hangar. He should have stayed in his laboratory. He was just a researcher, not a diplomat or a soldier. But something pulled him toward the hangar. He needed to see. The doors opened with a hiss of compressed air. She walked out alone. Had expected monsters. He had expected creatures with too many eyes or limbs that bent in wrong directions. Instead, he saw something almost human. The alien woman stood nearly 7 feet tall. Her skin was pale blue, smooth like polished stone. Her eyes were large and golden, with no visible pupils. Long silver hair flowed behind her like liquid metal. She wore armor that seemed to be made of living shadow, shifting and moving with each step she took. She was terrifying, she was beautiful, she was both at the same time. Behind, soldiers raised their weapons. Scientists backed away. Only Commander stepped forward, his face hard and unreadable. "I am commander of this station," he said. "Who are you, and why have you come to our world?" The alien woman smiled. It was a small smile, almost gentle, but it carried the weight of countless conquered worlds. "I am," she said. Her voice was soft but carried easily across the silent hangar. "Empress heir of the Dominion. My people have watched your species for many cycles. You are interesting." "Interesting?" repeated. "You bring a war fleet to tell us we are interesting." "The fleet is tradition," replied. "We do not travel without strength. But I did not come for war, Commander. I came for something far more valuable." She began to walk through the hangar, her golden eyes scanning every human face. Soldiers tensed. Scientists held their breath, moved like a predator examining prey, but there was curiosity in her gaze, not hunger. "Your species is young," she continued. "You have existed for barely a moment compared to our civilization. Yet in that moment, you have grown faster than any species we have encountered. You adapt. You create. You feel with an intensity that my people lost long ago." She stopped walking. Her eyes had found. He did not know why he had not stepped back like the others. He did not know why his feet felt rooted to the floor. But as her golden gaze met his, he felt something strange. It was not fear, though he should have been terrified. It was recognition, as if she had been looking for him specifically. "You said, what is your name?" Swallowed hard. "I'm a scientist here." "A scientist?" She tilted her head, studying him. "Yet you stand while others retreat. You have a warrior's spirit hidden beneath soft hands. I can see it." Commander stepped between them. "Empress heir, you still have not told us your purpose. What do you want from Earth?" "Did not look away from, I want him." The words hung in the air like a physical weight. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. "What?" finally managed to say. Smiled again, wider this time. "My bloodline has ruled the Dominion for 12,000 years, but we have grown stagnant. Our bodies are strong, but our minds have become rigid. We need new blood, human blood. Your creativity, your adaptability, your emotional fire, these are traits my children must have." "You want to?" Sora stepped forward, her scientific mind working faster than her fear. "You want to breed with humans." "With one human," corrected, "a consort for the future Empress, and I choose him," she pointed at. "No," Commander's voice was firm. "We do not trade our people, find another way." "There is another way," said. She finally turned to face, and her expression shifted. The gentle curiosity disappeared. In its place was something ancient and cold. "The trial of dominion, it is our oldest tradition. If your chosen warrior defeats my champion in 3 trials, I will bond with him as an equal. Earth will become our ally, protected by the full might of the Dominion." "And if he loses?" asked. "Then Earth becomes a vassal world. Your people will serve the Dominion for 1,000 years." Silence, complete and terrible silence. Felt the weight of every eye in the room. He wanted to speak, to refuse, to explain that he was just a scientist who had left fighting behind years ago. But his voice would not come. Walked toward him again. She stopped inches away, so close he could smell something like winter flowers on her skin. She leaned down, her lips nearly touching his ear. "My champion has not lost in 400 years," she whispered. "Every species that challenged him is now dust or slaves. But I watched you for 3 of your years. You are different. You have fire." She stepped back and addressed the room. "You have 7 of your days to prepare. The trial will be broadcast across the galaxy. Win or lose, humanity will be remembered." She walked back toward her shuttle without waiting for a response. At the door, she paused and looked over her shoulder. "Do not disappoint me. I am not often interested in things. It would be sad to lose that feeling." The shuttle doors closed. Moments later, she was gone. Stood frozen in the center of the hangar. 7 days. He had 7 days to prepare for a fight against an alien champion who had never lost. The fate of 8 billion humans rested on his shoulders. And somewhere deep inside him, beneath the fear and the shock, something stirred. It was the part of him he had buried years ago. The fighter, the survivor. He had thought that man was dead. He was wrong. The next 48 hours were chaos. News of the alien fleet spread across Earth like wildfire. Every government demanded answers. Every news channel showed the same footage. The massive purple ships hovering in space, waiting. And at the center of every story was one name. Sat alone in his small quarters on the science vault. His room was simple: a bed, a desk, a window that looked out at the stars. He had lived here for 3 years, studying distant galaxies and dreaming of first contact. Now first contact had happened, and it wanted to fight him. His tablet buzzed constantly with messages. His mother was crying in her video calls. His younger brother demanded to know what was happening. Old friends he had not spoken to in years suddenly wanted to talk. He turned the tablet off and stared at his hands. These hands had once broken bones. These hands had trained for years in mixed martial arts. He had been good, really good. Some coaches said he could have gone professional, but then came the accident, a sparring match that went wrong. His opponent never walked the same way again, had sworn never to fight again. Now the universe was laughing at that promise. A knock came at his door. He did not answer, but it opened anyway. Commander walked in, followed by Sora. They both looked exhausted, had dark circles under his eyes, and Sora's hair was a mess. "The United Nations has been in emergency session for 20 hours, said. He sat down on his bed without asking permission. "Half of them want you to refuse the challenge. They think it is a trick." "And the other half?" asked. "They want you to accept. They see the alliance as our only chance for survival. Rubbed his face with both hands. The fleet has enough firepower to turn Earth into dust. Even if we refused, they would attack. At least this way, we have a chance. A chance, laughed bitterly. I am a scientist, Commander. I study stars. I do not fight alien warriors. Sara stepped forward. She placed her tablet on his desk and brought up an image. It was the alien champion, General. He was massive, nearly 8 feet tall with muscles that looked like they were carved from rock. His skin was darker blue than's, and his face was covered in scars. Each scar, according to tradition, represented a killed enemy. I have been researching their species, Sora said. They are 3 times stronger than humans. Their bones are twice as dense. Their reflexes are faster than ours. In direct combat, we cannot win. Then why are you showing me this? Asked. Because I also found something else. Sara swiped to another image. It showed warriors training. Their movements were precise, beautiful, and exactly the same. Every warrior moved identically. They have been using the same fighting techniques for thousands of years. They never change. They never adapt. They do not need to. No one has ever been strong enough to challenge them. Understood what she was saying. They are predictable. Exactly. Sara smiled for the first time in days. They have perfect technique, but technique can be learned. It can be studied. And if you know what your enemy will do, you can find ways around it. Stood up. His heart was beating faster now, not with fear but with something else, hope. But I still cannot match his strength or speed. You do not need to, said a new voice. They turned to see a woman standing in the doorway. She was short and muscular, with close-cropped black hair and sharp eyes. She wore a military uniform, but her body moved like a fighter's. She said, stepping into the room, I was sent by the Korean government to train you. I know who you are. I know what you did in the ring. I know why you stopped. She crossed her arms. I also know that you are the only chance humanity has. Why me? Asked. It was the question that had been burning in his mind since pointed at him. There are professional fighters, soldiers, special forces. Why would she choose a scientist? Studied him for a long moment. I watched the footage from the hangar. When she walked in, everyone else stepped back. Soldiers with guns, commanders with decades of experience, they all moved away from her, but you did not. You stood your ground. I was scared, admitted. Of course you were. Only fools feel no fear. Walked closer. But you did not run. That is what she saw. That is what made her choose you. The respect courage above everything else. They think strength is the only thing that matters. They are wrong. The will to stand when you are afraid, that is something they do not understand. The door opened again. This time it was someone unexpected. She had changed from her armor into a simple white dress. Without the shadow armor, she looked almost fragile, but her golden eyes were just as intense, just as ancient. Leave us, she said. It was not a request. Looked ready to argue, but grabbed his arm and shook her head. One by one they left the room. Soon, only and remained. She walked to his window and looked out at the stars. Your world is beautiful from up here, so blue, so alive. Mine was once like this many ages ago. Now it is metal and stone. We sacrificed nature for power. Why are you here? Asked. Turned to face him. To tell you the truth, something I cannot say in front of others. She paused, and for a moment she looked almost vulnerable. This challenge is not just about you. It is about me. I do not understand. My council believes humans are primitive. They want to conquer Earth, not ally with it. They see your species as useful slaves, nothing more. Her hands clenched at her sides. But I have watched your people for years. I have seen your art, your music, your love, your rage. You feel things that my species has forgotten how to feel. If I take a human consort through the old traditions, I prove that humans are worthy. I prove that alliance is better than conquest. And if I lose, then my council gets what they want. Earth becomes a slave world, and I become just another empress who followed the old ways. She stepped closer to him. I am not asking you to fight for me. I am asking you to fight for your people. But know this, if you win, you do not just save Earth. You change the future of my empire." She reached into her dress and pulled out a blade. It was beautiful, with a silver handle and a blade that shimmered like starlight. She placed it in his hands. "This is my training blade. I have carried it since I was a child. It has never tasted defeat." She closed his fingers around the handle. "Now it is yours." "What happens if I win?" asked quietly. "What happens to you?" Smiled, and for the first time, it was not the smile of an empress. It was the smile of a woman who had found something rare and precious. "Then you decide my fate, human," she said. "And that is exactly what makes this interesting." She walked past him toward the door. At the threshold, she paused. 7 days, make them count. Then she was gone, leaving him alone with a blade and the weight of 2 worlds on his shoulders. The training bay was cold, stood in the center of a large metal room, wearing simple exercise clothes. His body ached from 2 days of intense training. Bruises covered his arms and legs. His muscles screamed for rest, but there was no time for rest. Circled him like a shark. She held padded training sticks in both hands. Without warning, she attacked. The sticks came at him from the left, then the right, then straight at his head. Blocked the first 2 but missed the third. The padded stick slammed into his temple and he stumbled backward. "Dead," said flatly, "again." They had been doing this for hours. Was getting better, but better was not enough. Every time he thought he had found a rhythm, would change her pattern. She fought unpredictably, never repeating the same combination twice. "I do not understand," gasped, bent over with his hands on his knees. "You told me they are predictable. Why are you fighting like this?" "Because you need to learn chaos before you can use it," twirled the sticks casually. "The fight in perfect patterns. They expect their enemies to do the same. When you face, he will expect you to fight like a warrior. If you fight like a street brawler, like a desperate animal, you will confuse him. And if confusion is not enough, then you will die and Earth will burn." Shrugged. "No pressure." The door opened and Sora hurried in. She was carrying her tablet and her face was pale with excitement. "I found something. The Trial of Dominion. I finally got complete information about it." Straightened up, ignoring the pain in his body. "Tell me." "There are 3 trials," Sora explained, pulling up holographic displays from her tablet. "The first is the trial of flesh, pure combat. You and fight until one of you cannot continue. No weapons allowed, just your body against his." Nodded. He had expected something like this. "What about the second?" "The trial of mind. It is a strategic simulation. You each command virtual armies and try to destroy the other. Think of it like a war game." Sora swiped to the next display. Consider this trial almost as important as combat. A true leader must be able to command armies." "And the third?" Sora hesitated. Her excitement faded, replaced by worry. "The trial of spirit. It is an endurance test. Both contestants are subjected to pain and suffering until one surrenders. Physical torture, psychological pressure, isolation. The trial continues until someone breaks." The room fell silent, stared at the holographic displays. 3 trials. Each one seemed impossible in its own way. "I cannot beat him in combat," said slowly, thinking out loud. "He is too strong, too fast. But maybe I do not need to beat him. Maybe I just need to survive long enough to surprise him." Tilted her head. "What do you mean?" "You said they are predictable. They expect honor. They expect tradition." Began to pace. "In my fighting days, I trained in mixed martial arts. We learned techniques from everywhere: wrestling, boxing, judo, street fighting. We used whatever worked. There was no honor. There was only winning." "They would consider that cheating," Sora said. "Is it against the rules?" Sora checked her notes. "No, the trial of flesh allows any unarmed technique, but no one has ever fought dirty against they would not expect it." "Then that is my advantage." Stopped packing. For the first time since this nightmare began, he felt something like confidence. I cannot match his power, but I can confuse him. I can make him angry. I can turn his expectations against him. Smiled, a rare expression on her serious face. Now you are thinking like a survivor. They trained for 3 more days, taught every dirty trick she knew. How to attack the eyes, the throat, the groin. How to use joint locks that did not require strength. How to take a punch without going down. How to keep fighting when every part of your body wanted to quit. At night, studied war. He read about guerrilla tactics, about how small forces defeated larger enemies. He learned about the battles of history where cunning beat strength. He memorized the strategies of generals who won against impossible odds. On the 5th day, Commander showed him footage of past fights. Watched them over and over, studying every movement. The champion was terrifying. He moved with perfect precision, every strike exactly where it needed to be. His opponents, aliens from a dozen different species, all fought the same way. They tried to match his strength. They tried to block his attacks directly, and they all lost. But notice something. When an opponent did something unexpected, would pause for half a second. It was barely visible, but it was there. A moment of confusion, a crack in the perfect warrior's armor. He does not like surprises, muttered to himself. On the 6th day, Sara came to him with new information. I analyzed physiological data, she said, are stronger than us, but they have weaknesses. Their joints are similar to ours. Their pressure points are in almost the same places, and they feel pain, maybe even more than we do. More than humans. Their nerve endings are denser. They experience pain more intensely, but their culture teaches them to suppress it. They are trained from birth to ignore suffering. Sara looked at him seriously. In the trial of spirit, this could work against him. He feels everything but shows nothing. If the pain becomes too much, he might break suddenly, without warning. That night stood alone in the training bay. He held his blade in his hand, feeling its perfect balance. Through the window, he could see the fleet, still waiting in the darkness of space. Somewhere on one of those ships was probably preparing as well. The champion had 400 years of experience. He had killed thousands of warriors. He had never known defeat. And tomorrow would face him. The door opened behind him. He did not need to turn around to know who it was. He could smell winter flowers. You have changed, said, walking to stand beside him. When I first saw you, there was fear in your eyes. Now I see something different. What do you see? Asked. Determination and something else. She studied his face. Anger perhaps, or hunger, the look of a predator who has found his prey. Finally looked at her. In the dim light of the training bay, she seemed less like an alien empress and more like a woman, a person with hopes and fears just like him. Your champion, he said, tell me about him. Was quiet for a moment. He was my father's greatest general. When my father died, swore to protect me. He believes conquering humanity is the right thing to do. He believes your species is too emotional, too chaotic to be trusted. And what do you believe? She smiled sadly. I believe that chaos might be exactly what my people need. We have become so perfect, so orderly, that we have forgotten how to feel. We have forgotten how to grow. She touched the window, her blue fingers leaving no mark on the glass. When I watch humans, I see creatures who laugh and cry, who love and hate, who create beautiful things and terrible things. You are messy and unpredictable, and that makes you alive in a way that we no longer are. Looked back at the stars. Tomorrow, I fight for my people, but I am also fighting for something else. I am fighting to show the galaxy that humans are not weak, that our emotions are not a flaw, that being messy and unpredictable is its own kind of strength. Took his hand. Her skin was cool, almost cold, but her grip was gentle. Then fight well, the galaxy is watching. She left him alone with the stars and his thoughts. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, he would step into an arena and face the greatest warrior in the known universe. Tomorrow, humanity would discover what it was truly made of. The arena was enormous. It floated in the empty space between the flagship and the science vault, a massive dome of transparent metal that allowed billions of viewers to watch from every angle. Cameras from 100 different species broadcast the event across the galaxy. This was not just a fight. This was the moment that would define humanity's place in the universe. Stood at one end of the arena, the artificial gravity was heavier than Earth's, making his legs feel like stone. The temperature was uncomfortably hot, designed for physiology. Every advantage had been given to the champion. The organizers expected a quick execution, not a real fight. At the other end stood General. The champion was even more terrifying in person than in the videos. His muscles were like cables of steel wrapped in blue skin. Scars covered every visible part of his body. His eyes were completely black, with no whites at all, and they stared at with absolute contempt. "So this is humanity's champion," said, his voice booming across the arena. "A small, soft creature who studies stars. I have crushed warriors from species that could tear your kind apart with a thought. You are not even worth my time." Said nothing. He focused on his breathing, on keeping his heart rate steady. His voice echoed in his head. "He will try to make you angry. He will try to make you attack first. Do not let him control the fight." An announcer spoke in a language he did not understand. Then a translation played in his earpiece. "The trial of flesh begins. Combat continues until one participant surrenders or cannot continue. No weapons. No outside assistance. Begin." A horn sounded. Moved first. He crossed the arena in 3 massive steps, faster than anything that size should be able to move. His fist came down like a meteor, aimed directly at Skull. Was not there. He had already rolled to the side, using the momentum to create distance. His fist hit the floor, cracking the metal surface. The champion turned, surprise flickering briefly in his dark eyes. "You are quick," admitted, "but speed will not save you." He attacked again. A series of punches, each one perfectly placed, each one capable of killing with a single hit. Did not try to block them. He dodged, weaved, and retreated. His body remembered the movements from years of training, flowing between the strikes like water through rocks. But he could not dodge forever, was learning his patterns, predicting his movements. A kick caught in the ribs, sending him flying across the arena. He crashed into the wall and felt something crack. Pain exploded through his chest. Back on Earth, millions of people watching screamed. On the science vault, Sora covered her mouth, gripped the railing so hard her knuckles turned white. Commander closed his eyes. Pushed himself up. Blood dripped from his lip. Each breath felt like fire, but he stood. "You still rise," seemed genuinely confused. "Most opponents do not survive that kick. Your bones should be powder." "Human bones are flexible," managed to say. "We bend, we do not break easily." Charged again. This time did not run. He waited until the champion was almost on top of him, then dropped to the ground and swept his legs in a wide arc. It was a wrestling move. Simple, basic, something had never seen in 400 years of honor-bound combat. The champion's legs were knocked out from under him. For the first time in centuries, General fell. The arena went silent. Across the galaxy, billions of viewers held their breath. Rose slowly, his black eyes now burning with anger. What was that? That was not a warrior's technique. That was the move of a coward. "It worked," said. He attacked before could recover. Not with punches, his fists would break against skin. Instead, he went for the joints. A quick jab to the nerve cluster behind his knee. An elbow strike to the inside of his elbow, a knee to his thigh muscle. Each hit was precise. Each hit targeted the weaknesses Sora had identified. Staggered, his leg was not responding properly. His arm hung at an awkward angle. He had never fought an opponent who attacked like this, targeting vulnerabilities instead of trying to overpower him. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "Face me properly, fight with honor." answered with a headbutt. His forehead slammed into his nose. Blue blood sprayed across both of them. The champion stumbled backward, his hands instinctively going to his face. In the viewing gallery, Elder, the advisor who opposed the alliance, jumped to his feet. "This is disgraceful. The human fights like an animal. Declare the trial void." But seated on her royal throne only smiled. "He fights to win. That is all the trial demands." In the arena had recovered. His nose was shattered, but his eyes were focused now with deadly intensity. He was no longer treating as a weak prey. He was treating him as a real threat. "You have made a mistake," the champion said quietly. "Before I was going to give you a quick death. Now I will make you suffer." He moved differently now. Faster, more aggressive. His attacks came without pause, without the brief moments of hesitation that had been using to escape. The champion was adapting, learning, becoming unpredictable himself. A punch caught in the shoulder and dislocated it. A kick shattered something in his left leg. He fell, rolled, tried to stand, and fell again. Pain overwhelmed everything else. His vision blurred. His lungs could not get enough air. Stood over him, raising his foot for a final stomping blow. "You fought well for your kind, human, better than expected. But in the end, strength always wins." Looked up at him. Blood filled his mouth. His body had nothing left, but somewhere deep inside, in the part of him that had learned to fight through any pain, something sparked. He was not going to die here. As foot came down, grabbed it with his one working arm. He twisted his body with everything he had, using the champion's own momentum against him. It was a move from judo, designed to use an enemy's weight as a weapon. Crashed to the ground again. This time, did not let go. He wrapped his legs around the champion's arm and pulled, locking the joint in a direction it was not meant to bend. Screamed. It was a sound of pure surprise more than pain. No opponent had ever put him in such a position. He tried to pull free, but his own strength worked against him. The more he pulled, the more the joint was damaged. "Surrender," growled through bloody teeth. Never, kept fighting, kept trying to escape, but held on like death itself. Seconds passed, then minutes. The arena was completely silent. Finally, an official approached. "The champion's arm is broken. He cannot continue the trial of flesh." Released his grip and collapsed on his back. Above him, the transparent dome showed the stars of the galaxy watching. He had won. Somehow, impossibly, he had won the first trial. Medics rushed toward him. As they lifted him onto a stretcher, he saw sitting alone on the arena floor. The champion was staring at his broken arm, his face showing an emotion had never seen on it before. "Doubt. 2 trials remain," said quietly, his voice carried by the arena speakers. "You surprised me today, human, but I learned fast. I will not underestimate you again." Managed a weak smile as the medics carried him away. Good. It would not be fun otherwise. Behind him, he could hear the audience murmuring in confusion. And somewhere in the royal gallery, he was certain he could feel smiling. 1 trial down, 2 to go. 2 days passed before could stand again. The medical technology was impressive. His bones had been repaired, his muscles regenerated. But nothing could completely erase the pain. Every movement reminded him of how close he had come to death. Now he sat in a command chair, surrounded by holographic screens. The trial of mind was about to begin. The simulation chamber was a sphere of pure light. Both contestants sat in identical chairs on opposite sides, connected to the system by neural interfaces. Each would command a virtual fleet of warships. The goal was simple: destroy your enemy's command ship while protecting your own. His voice echoed through the chamber. "You may have surprised me with tricks in the trial of flesh, human, but this is different. Strategy requires centuries of study. Your species barely left your planet 100 years ago. You know nothing of war on a galactic scale." Did not respond. He was studying the holographic display that showed the battlefield, a section of space with asteroids, space stations, and two identical fleets facing each other. Each fleet had 50 warships, 10 carriers, and 1 command vessel. "Begin," the announcer said. Moved immediately. His fleet organized into a perfect formation, a strategy that had 1,000s of simulated and real battles over the centuries. Each ship knew its exact position, its exact role. It was beautiful in its precision, like a machine designed for destruction. His fleet did not move. In the viewing gallery, Commander leaned forward. "What is he doing? Why is he not responding?" Sora shook her head. "I do not know. He should be organizing his defenses." His fleet advanced. His ships moved in coordinated waves, each wave designed to weaken the enemy before the main attack. It was textbook military doctrine, perfect in every way. Watched, waited, let them come closer. Then, when his fleet was halfway across the battlefield, gave his first order. 10 of his ships broke formation and flew directly into a dense asteroid field. Laughed, "Running already. There is no escape in there. Asteroids will destroy your ships." But ships did not run. They stopped, hiding among the tumbling rocks, and they waited. Continued his advance. His leading ships reached his main fleet and opened fire. The battle was brutal. Ships fought back, but they were clearly losing. One by one, they were destroyed. In the gallery, Earth's observers began to panic. "He is going to lose," one diplomat said. "We should surrender now. Maybe they will show mercy." Said nothing. She was watching his face on the screen. He did not look like a man who was losing. He looked like a man who was waiting for something. On the battlefield, his fleet pushed forward. They destroyed ship after ship, clearing a path towards command vessel. Victory was moments away. "Your mind is as weak as your body," taunted. "I expected better from the creature who defeated me in flesh." Finally spoke. "Tell me something. In 400 years, how many times have you lost ships in battle?" "Never. My strategies are perfect." "And do you know why?" His voice was calm, almost peaceful. "Because you never take risks. You never sacrifice pieces to gain advantage. Every ship is precious to you. Every life matters." "Of course, a good commander does not waste resources." "But I am not a good commander," smiled. "I am a desperate one." He gave the order. His 10 hidden ships emerged from the asteroid field, but they were not aiming for his fleet. They were aiming for the asteroid field itself. Their weapons fired at precise angles, sending massive rocks tumbling towards advancing forces. It was chaos. Perfect formations were shattered by mountains of stone flying through space. Ships that had never faced such disorder crashed into each other, trying to avoid the asteroids. The beautiful machine of his fleet broke apart. But that was not all. Had not been wasting time while his ships were destroyed. He had been analyzing supply lines, the routes that kept his fleet fueled and armed. Now, his remaining ships ignored the main battle entirely. They flew past confused forces and struck at the supply stations. "What are you doing?" demanded. "Those are not combat targets. You are supposed to fight my fleet." "I am fighting to win," replied. "You said it yourself, every life is precious. So what happens when your ships run out of fuel, when their weapons have no ammunition, when they are stranded in space, slowly dying?" For the first time, his confidence cracked. He had never faced an enemy who refused to play by the rules. He had never faced someone willing to sacrifice half their own fleet just to create an opening. He turned his attention to stopping the supply attacks, but it was too late. Had sacrificed too much too quickly. By the time his fleet reorganized, half of their supply lines were gone. Ships began to drift, powerless. Carriers could not launch fighters. The perfect machine was starving. And still had 10 ships hidden in the asteroids. They emerged now, not attacking the main fleet, but flying directly towards command vessel. It was unprotected. All of its escorts had moved forward to participate in the attack. had never considered that someone would bypass his entire fleet and strike directly at him. "You cannot do this," said, his voice shaking with something that might have been fear. "This is not strategy. This is chaos." "Yes," agreed, "it is." The 10 ships opened fire. His command vessel had strong shields, but 10 ships firing continuously was too much. The shields flickered, failed, and then the holographic ship exploded. Silence filled the chamber. "The trial of mind is complete," the announcer said. "The human is victorious." In the viewing gallery, Elder rose from his seat. His face was purple with rage. "This is unacceptable. He cheated. He did not follow any established military doctrine. He wasted his own ships like they were worthless. This victory must be declared void." Stood as well. Her voice was cold as ice. "Elder, the rules of the trial are clear. Destroy the enemy command ship by any means necessary. There is nothing about doctrine. There is nothing about honor. There is only victory." "But the methods—" "The methods were effective. That is all that matters." His golden eyes swept across the observers. "Perhaps this is exactly what we needed to see. For too long, we have believed that our way is the only way. Today, a human showed us that there are other paths to victory. Paths we never considered because we were too proud to imagine them." She turned to look at the screen showing his face. He was exhausted, barely able to keep his eyes open, but he was smiling. "2 trials complete," she said softly. "One remains, the trial of spirit. This one cannot be won with tricks or chaos. This one tests something deeper, the ability to endure suffering without breaking." In the simulation chamber, removed his neural interface and sat in silence. His black eyes stared at the empty space where his command ship had been. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "What are you, human? What kind of mind thinks like yours?" Stood slowly, his legs still shaking from the mental effort of the trial. He walked toward and stopped in front of him. "I am just a scientist who studies stars," he said, "but my people have spent thousands of years fighting wars. We have learned that the strongest army does not always win. Sometimes the most desperate one does. Sometimes the one willing to sacrifice everything does. We do not fight because we want to. We fight because we have no choice." He left sitting alone in the chamber. Behind him, the champion of 400 years stared at his hands and wondered, for the first time in his long life, if he was finally facing an opponent he could not defeat. The chamber was white. Pure, empty white. There were no walls that could see, no ceiling, no floor, just endless white stretching in every direction. He stood on something solid but invisible, wearing nothing but simple white clothes. Across from him, about 20 meters away, stood. The champion had removed his armor. Without it, he looked almost vulnerable, almost human. His dark eyes met, and for once there was no contempt in them, only grim respect. "The trial of spirit," a voice announced from everywhere and nowhere. "Both contestants will experience increasing levels of physical and psychological stress. The trial continues until one contestant surrenders or loses consciousness. There is no time limit." Took a deep breath. Sora had warned him about this trial. They had designed it thousands of years ago to test the willpower of their leaders. Only those who could endure anything were considered worthy of command. The pain would be real, projected directly into their nervous systems. The suffering would be genuine. And it would only get worse. "Are you ready, human?" asked. "No," admitted, "but that does not matter, does it?" For the first time almost smiled. "No, it does not." The trial began. The first hour was cold. The temperature dropped until his breath formed clouds of ice. His fingers went numb. His lips turned blue. Frost began to form on his skin. He shivered uncontrollably, his muscles cramping from the constant trembling. Stood perfectly still. His physiology was designed for extreme temperatures. Cold was uncomfortable for him, but not dangerous. The second hour was heat. The temperature reversed. climbing until sweat poured from his body. The air became thick and difficult to breathe. He felt like he was standing inside an oven. Still remained motionless. His expression never changed. The third hour brought pain, small at first like pins and needles across his skin, then deeper into his muscles, then into his bones. Every nerve in his body began to scream. He fell to his knees, unable to stay standing. Watched him struggle. "Do you surrender?" "No," gasped. The fourth hour made it worse. The pain was now constant, waves of agony washing over him without pause. Screamed. He could not help it. His body was designed to express pain, to cry out when suffering. He did not try to stop the screams. In the viewing gallery, Sara had to look away. Tears ran down her face. "He is breaking. He cannot take much more." But shook her head. "No, watch him, look at his eyes." Sara forced herself to look. Through the screaming, through the tears and the twisted expression of agony's eyes were still focused, still aware. He was suffering openly, without shame or resistance, but he was not breaking. The fifth hour added psychological pressure. The white room began to show images people loved. His mother crying and begging him to surrender. His brother promising that no one would blame him if he gave up. Sara telling him that it was okay to lose. The images were fake, generated by the system, but they looked and sounded completely real. "Your people want you to stop," the image of his mother said. "They do not want you to suffer for them. Please, my son, please surrender." Closed his eyes, tears mixed with sweat ran down his face. "You are not real," he whispered. "You are not real." The sixth hour was isolation. The images disappeared. The temperature returned to normal. Even the pain faded slightly. But now there was nothing, no sound, no sensation, no sense of time passing. Floated in emptiness, alone with his thoughts. This was the part designed to break the mind. Could endure physical pain through discipline. But isolation attacked something deeper. It forced you to face yourself without distraction. Thought about his life, about the fight that had changed everything, about the opponent he had hurt, the man who would never walk normally again. He had carried that guilt for years. It had made him abandon fighting, made him run to the stars to escape what he had done. But now he understood something. Running had not healed him. Hiding had not erased the guilt. The only way forward was through. "I hurt someone," he said to the emptiness. "I made a mistake and someone suffered for it. I can never undo that, but I can choose what to do next. I can choose to keep going. I can choose to be better." The emptiness had no response, but something inside shifted. A weight he had carried for years became slightly lighter. The trial entered its 10th hour, then its 15th, then its 20th. Lost track of time. Pain and cold and heat and isolation blended together into an endless stream of suffering. He screamed when his body needed to scream. He cried when his mind needed to cry. He did not try to be strong. He did not try to hide his weakness. He simply endured. Meanwhile was a statue. 400 years of training had taught him to suppress everything. His face showed nothing. His body revealed no pain. He stood perfectly still while the trial attacked him with the same intensity it attacked. But slowly something changed. Began to tremble, not from cold or pain, but from the effort of holding everything inside. His jaw clenched so hard that his teeth cracked. His hands formed fists so tight that blue blood dripped from his palms. He was fighting the trial the way always fought, by resisting. And resistance has limits. "Why do you not break?" suddenly demanded. His voice was strained, barely controlled. "You scream, you cry, you show weakness to the entire galaxy. How are you still standing?" Opened his eyes. He could barely see through the haze of exhaustion, but he forced himself to focus on the champion. "Because I am not fighting the pain," he said. "I am just letting it pass through me. You are trying to hold it all inside. That is why you are suffering more than me. That is weakness. A true warrior does not show pain." "No," said slowly. A true warrior admits when something hurts. Hiding pain does not make it go away, it just makes it harder to carry. Stared at him. Something was happening behind those dark eyes, something had never expected to see. Doubt, fear, and beneath them, centuries of suppressed emotion beginning to crack through the surface. I cannot, his voice broke, I cannot feel this, I was not trained to feel this. Then stop fighting it, let it out. I do not know how. The trial entered its 21st hour. By now, both contestants were barely conscious. Lay on the invisible floor, no longer able to stand. His body had given everything it had. Only his mind kept him from surrendering. Stood on shaking legs. His entire body trembled violently. 400 years of perfect control were crumbling. The dam he had built inside himself was breaking. And then it broke. Screamed. It was not a scream of pain. It was a scream of 400 years of emotion finally being released. Every death he had caused, every opponent he had crushed, every moment he had forced himself to feel nothing. It all came pouring out in a single, terrible cry. Then he fell. The white room flickered. The trial ended. General has lost consciousness, the announcer said. The trial of spirit is complete. The human is victorious. Heard the words, but they seemed far away. His vision was fading. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was a figure in white walking toward him. She knelt beside him and touched his face with cool fingers. You did it, she whispered. You impossible, beautiful creature, you did it. Then everything went black. When woke up, he was in a medical bay. Soft light surrounded him. Machines monitored his vital signs. He tried to move, but his body refused. A familiar face appeared above him. Sora. She was smiling, but there were tears in her eyes. You won, she said. All 3 trials, you won them all. Closed his eyes. He had won. Somehow, impossibly, he had won. Now came the hardest part. Deciding what victory meant. 3 days past before was strong enough to leave the medical bay. His body had healed, but the memory of the trials remained. Every time he closed his eyes, he felt phantom pain echoing through his nerves. The doctors said it would fade with time. He was not sure he wanted it to fade completely. On the 4th day, Commander came to see him. The older man looked different, lighter somehow, as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. The galaxy is talking about you, said, sitting beside his bed. Every species that has ever been conquered by thee is watching. You gave them hope. You showed them that the Dominion can be challenged. I did not do it alone, replied. Sora, you everyone helped me prepare. But you were the one in the arena. You were the one who stood when any sane person would have fallen, leaned forward. The council has requested a formal ceremony. Will present herself to you as promised. You won the trial of Dominion. According to their law, she belongs to you now. Looked out the window. Beyond the glass, he could see the fleet still hovering in space. They had not left. They were waiting for him to claim his prize. What happens if I refuse? He asked. His eyes widened. Refuse? You mean refuse the alliance? No, I mean refuse the ownership. Is not a prize. She is a person. I do not want to own her. The commander was silent for a long moment. They have never had a victor refuse. Their entire tradition is built on the strong claiming the weak. If you refuse, he shook his head. I do not know what will happen. It could be seen as an insult. It could start the war we just avoided. Or it could be the beginning of something new. That evening came to see him. She wore a white dress again, simple and elegant. Without her armor, without the symbols of her rank, she looked almost ordinary, almost human. The ceremony is tomorrow, she said, standing by his window. The entire Dominion is watching. My council expects you to claim me publicly, to show your dominance over the people. And what do you expect? She turned to face him. Her golden eyes were difficult to read. I expect you to surprise me. You have done nothing but surprise me since we met. Stood slowly. His legs were still weak, but he forced himself to walk to her. They stood face to face, human and alien, two creatures from worlds that should never have met. "I do not want to own you. I did not fight for a prize. I fought for my people." Something flickered in her eyes. "Then what do you want?" "An alliance, a real one, not master and servant, but partners, equals." He took her hand, her cool blue hand, and held it in his. "Your people have conquered the galaxy because they believe strength is everything. But true strength is not about domination. It is about respect. It is about building something together that neither side could build alone." Was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft. "My council will not accept this. They will say you are weak. They will say humans are not worthy of equality." "Then we prove them wrong, together." The next day, the ceremony took place in the great hall of the flagship. Thousands have filled the massive chamber, their blue faces watching with ancient, skeptical eyes. Holographic displays broadcast the event across the galaxy. Every conquered species, every distant observer, every being who had ever wondered if the Dominion could be challenged, they were all watching. Walked down the center aisle. His legs still ached. His body still remembered every blow, every moment of agony from the trials, but he walked with his head high. At the end of the aisle, on a raised platform, stood. She wore the full regalia of the Empress Air, a crown of silver light, robes of flowing shadow, symbols of power that had passed through her bloodline for 12,000 years. Beside her stood Elder, his face tight with barely concealed hatred. Behind him, General watched in silence. The champion's arm was healed now, but something else had changed in him. His black eyes held something that looked almost like curiosity. "Of Earth," announced, her voice echoing through the hall. "You have completed the trial of dominion. You have defeated our champion in flesh, in mind, and in spirit. By the ancient laws of our people, I am yours to command. Speak your will." The hall fell completely silent. This was the moment that would define humanity's future. Climbed the steps to the platform. He stood before, close enough to see the tiny flecks of silver in her golden eyes, close enough to see the hope she was trying to hide. "I speak my will," he said loudly so every could hear. "I do not claim ownership of the Empress Air. I do not claim dominion over the people." Gasps filled the hall. Elder stepped forward, his mouth opening to speak, but continued. "Instead, I offer something your people have never received: friendship, partnership, an alliance between Earth and the Dominion, not as master and slave, but as equals. We will share knowledge. We will share culture. We will learn from each other and grow stronger together." "This is absurd," Elder spat. "You cannot change the ancient traditions. The trial exists to prove superiority, not to create friendships." "Then perhaps the traditions need to change," turned to address the crowd. "I have learned much about your people in these past days. You are strong. You are disciplined. You have built an empire that spans the stars, but you have also become rigid. You do not grow anymore. You do not feel anymore. You have sacrificed everything that makes life worth living in pursuit of perfection." He looked at, "Your champion taught me something in the trial of spirit. He had held his emotions inside for 400 years. When he finally let them out, he was overwhelmed because he had forgotten how to feel. That is not strength. That is a kind of prison." Said nothing, but he did not look away. Continued, "Humans are not perfect. We are messy. We are emotional. We make mistakes, but we also laugh. We love. We create art and music and stories. We feel pain deeply, but we also feel joy deeply. That is our strength, not our bodies, not our technology, but our hearts." He turned back to, "I offer you something better than ownership. I offer you the chance to feel again. I offer you the chance to grow. I offer you a future where your people and mine walk together, learning from each other's strengths and covering each other's weaknesses." Looked at him for a long moment. Then slowly, she smiled. It was not the smile of an empress. It was the smile of someone who had finally found what she had been searching for. I accept, she said. On behalf of the Dominion, I accept this alliance of equals. Elder tried to protest, but stopped him with a hand on his shoulder. Enough, the champion said quietly. The human won fairly. He has earned the right to choose his prize, if he chooses partnership instead of power. He looked at with something that might have been respect. Then perhaps we have something to learn from him. The ceremony ended differently than anyone expected. There was no transfer of ownership. There was no declaration of dominance. Instead, and stood side by side, human and alien, and shook hands as equals. Later that night, they stood together on the observation deck of the science vault. Earth hung below them, blue and beautiful and alive. The fleet remained in orbit, but now it felt less like a threat and more like a promise. You could have had everything, said softly. An empire, power, me. Shook his head. I got something better, a future worth living. She moved closer to him. Her hand found his. This time it was her choice, not tradition, not ancient law, just a woman choosing to be with a man she had come to admire. Perhaps in time, she said, you will have me anyway, not as a prize, not as a conquest, but as something I give freely. Looked at her, this strange, beautiful alien who had challenged him to fight for humanity's future. I would like that. They stood together in silence, watching the stars. Behind them, the galaxy was watching too. For the first time in 12,000 years, the Dominion had an equal. For the first time in human history, Earth had a place among the stars. And it had all started with a scientist who refused to run when an alien princess smiled at him. The universe would never be the same.